So I am talking to you from my treadmill desk today. Let me know if it's too distracting or too loud. I'm super crazy busy. We are getting ready to go out of town again. And I am going to talk about teens today. I thought it was very apropos because next week we'll be in Boston. My husband is speaking at a leadership event for pre-med students, and it's just a great event. But also because I, for some reason, have been getting a ton of people writing in, and even personal people in my life reaching out to me about their relationships with their teens. So I need to preface this by telling you I am not a parenting expert, but I am married to a child psychiatrist, and I think because of my own struggles in the past when my daughter was young, not now as a teenager, actually she's freaking amazing, which hence people reaching out to me, and actually somewhat in frustration. I hear so often, I don't understand why your daughter is the way she is, and why am I struggling, and all these different things. So I'm not a parenting expert. I would encourage you to watch our parenting episode on our podcast, Brain Warriors Way podcast, on either Stitcher or iTunes with Jim Fay. Jim Fay is one of my favorite parenting experts. He and my husband together have saved my life. Their book, he and another psychiatrist wrote it. The name is eluding me, but Jim Fay wrote Parenting with Love and Logic, and it's one of my all-time favorite books. Saved my life. When my daughter was 5, I read it, and it was the only time I ever felt like I got one of my prayers literally answered by God. I was praying and crying and going, parenting's not supposed to be this hard. And the answer came back to me, well, why are you waiting for a 5-year-old to understand you and do what you say? You're the parent. You're supposed to be figuring this out. And it was just amazing. It was like magic, because I'm like, duh, I am the parent. I'm supposed to be figuring this out. It's up to me. And so that book was just life-changing for me. That and my husband keeping me from just losing my mind, and he's just very calming and grounding. So I had this very, very, very strong child, and who is now a very strong but well-directed teenager, and you can tell I just light up when I talk about her because she's just incredible. Perfect? No. Incredible? Yes. So that's the thing, is understanding a few things about teenagers that are normal is probably the most important thing. They are they have a major job. They have a major task. One is to become individual. They need to become individual and independent, right? That's their job. So if you understand that, if you see everything they do through that lens, I am supposed to be breaking away from you, becoming individual, becoming independent, then you don't take it so personally. Now, how they do that is a whole different thing. They can do that in a really healthy way, or they can do that in a really unhealthy way. So that's the big question. And just remember one thing, entitled kids cannot be happy. Entitled adults can never be happy. That was a big aha for me as well, because so many of us want to protect our children from what we went through when we were young. If we were either grew up poor or with struggles, that's one of the worst things you can actually do for your kids. Not teaching them how to deal with life. So I figured out this big secret. I see so many people in our area over sheltering their children. Well, that's just my opinion. Okay, my opinion, let me just make that very clear, is that I see people working really hard to shelter their children to a point where they don't really see the world, they don't understand how the world actually even works. And I don't see that as my job. I see my job as preparing my daughter. It's my job to prepare my daughter for whatever she might encounter, and I want her to be pardon my French, totally kick butt. So that is what I want her. I want her to walk into any situation knowing how to handle it. You can't prepare them for everything, but I want her to have the heads up. Now I got a lot of life experience, not so much the fun way, but that gives me an advantage in helping prepare her. So why would I want to spare her that? That's her advantage in life. So that was one thing. One of the things that I hear a lot is, but that's not normal for a teenager. Even some of the things we do. She's my daughter's homeschooled. We travel a lot. She travels with us. I've actually heard people say, yeah, but that is that really? I get a lot of comments even on Facebook. But that's isn't she missing out on a lot? That's not really normal for a kid her age. She's missing out on normal stuff. And it actually makes me laugh. You know, maybe it's not normal, but we're not going for normal. We're going for extraordinary. Like, I don't know about you, but normal kind of sucks. So normal's not really my goal, never has been. I don't want to be a C student. I don't really want to be a C player in life. So I'm looking for extraordinary, and we actually talked to her a lot about what she wants, like what are her goals. And so, you know, we talked to her, we had a long talk about this, about prom. Like her, by the way, her homeschool has prom, but we talked to her about that, and she's like, are you kidding me? She goes, yeah, I thought about it. She goes, I was like, at first I was like a little freaked out about like the idea of missing prom. She's like, but then I'm like, wait, the stuff I get to do? She's like, are you kidding me? Compared to like prom? So she's got a really healthy worldview. She knows the things she's doing are pretty cool. So that's one thing. So it doesn't work for everybody, but it works for us. And so always like be careful with the labels of like what's normal, what's not normal. It really depends on your life and how you see things and how the world works. So one of the things that came up, and one of the reasons I'm doing this live chat, I got like within the same day, I had several people, I had two people reach out to me in the same day, people I know. And one of them was the mother of one of my daughter's friends. And so my daughter had gone out of town with, they invited her to go out of town with them. It was her first time like away from home on a vacation with someone she knew. And so let's see. Trying to see if you guys can actually hear me. Okay, so don't have my glasses on in case you can't tell. So she went out of town with her friends, and I get a phone call from the mom, and she's like, I have to talk to you about your daughter. And I'm like, oh, that's never a good thing, right? But I know my daughter, so I was kind of like, but she's like, I have to talk to you about your daughter. And so I said, okay, you know, I would love to talk to you. She's like, I don't understand. I don't understand Chloe at all. And I'm like, no, they're foreign. She was not born in the U.S. And so I said, okay. And she said, she's amazing. She's like, my friends love her so much. And so she was going on to tell me all the reasons why, right? Now, there are things I sort of take for granted sometimes now because I'm used to her. Now, I still am very shocked at my own daughter sometimes, but I, you know, I'm used to her. And so I forget that she's not like other teens her age. And she went on, she's like, I don't understand how you guys have such a good relationship. Now that surprised me because how does she know what kind of relationship I have with her? I wasn't there. And so she said, she trusts you. She goes, every time I ask her anything, she talks about, you know, how close she is to you and how much she trusts you. And it occurred to me, I went, oh, wow, because, you know, it wasn't that long ago that she was 5 and we were struggling and it was so hard. And I had this strong-willed teenager, and Daniel used to say she's either going to be the leader of the free world or the leader of a gang, and we're not sure which. So directing that intensity, directing that strength is a really important thing and not always an easy thing to do. But it was really interesting to hear that from someone, and she said, you know, my daughter and I are struggling. And then that same day, I had someone else reach out to me, and she was crying. And she said, you know, my daughter and I have always been so close, and she's so, you know, she's so sweet. Now she just became a teenager, and she lied to me for the first time. And she took it so personally, and so, which I can understand. But I said, oh, and that's never happened in the history of the universe, I'm sure, with a teenager, right? She started laughing. And so I said, look, you know, the bigger question is why? Why is she lying to you? Right? In my mind, the bigger question is why is she lying to you? So what is causing her to not feel safe enough to talk to you? You got to diagnose the issue, right? So that was really what I saw in that situation. So you gotta really know your kid. So I started thinking about this, and I started thinking about both of those issues, like what's going on with teenagers. And I don't have all of the answers, but I do know after raising a really strong child, a few of the things that have worked with us, and I know from being, you know, because my husband's a child psychiatrist, so a lot of what we see is with children. And I pay attention. I pay attention a lot to what we deal with at the clinics. So one of them I already touched on is that entitled children can't be happy, and they are not their confidence suffers if they don't have self-efficacy, or the the idea that they can actually do something well, then they suffer and they are resentful. So let me give you an example. My daughter is going to a concert, and she wanted pit tickets because her friends, I live in an area that is, the kids are, they have a lot. And so the pit tickets are very expensive. And it's just against my values. Now, there's nothing right, wrong, or indifferent with buying the tickets. The tickets aren't the issue. My values tell me I'm not going to spend that much money on a ticket. It's just not who I am. I would buy a less expensive ticket and donate the money to some charity before I would do that. So we ought to talk about why I wasn't willing to spend that much on the ticket, but I said, but those are my values. Those aren't your values. You need to figure out what is important to you to spend your money on. And if you want to spend your money on that, then you can. And she said, but I don't have that much money. I said, but you've got, this was actually back in November. I said, but you do have a long time to earn the money. So if you choose, what I will do is help you, because your birthday is between now and then, and I was going to spend X amount on a birthday present for you. And if you want to earn the money so that you understand the value of what it takes to make that much money, you're welcome to go. You're welcome to get those tickets. And that's how that's an example of how we have done most things in our house. My daughter actually works very hard, and she likes working hard. And that's the part most people don't understand. So that same mom that she had gone out of town with, almost fell out of her chair one day because she was talking to my daughter. My daughter was telling her that she makes dinner once a week, and then on the weekends she always makes us breakfast. And the lady was like, what? She goes, okay, I don't even know where to start. First of all, you can cook. And second of all, she goes, do you have to? Is that your parents make you do that? And she goes, no, they don't make me do that at all. She goes, I do have certain chores I don't get paid for, and then there are other things I do that I do get paid for. That's how I am able to buy my clothes. She's like, wait, you buy your own clothes? The whole thing was mind-boggling to her, right? So we've taught our daughter, you have to work to earn certain things. You buy certain, this is how you do it. I'm not going to buy everything for you, because then you never learn the value of how to, what things even cost. There's no concept in most kids' heads. And so the part that really shocked her was when she said, but why do you do it? And Chloe said, because my family does so much for me, and I like to give back to them. I want to do something to give back to them. And that was the part where she just was blown away. Now, I admit I'm bragging about my daughter. I'm sorry. You can send me hate mail if you want to, but somewhere along the way, I know we did something right. I know she's got a good heart. I know she does. It's not all us, but I am bragging a little bit. But I do want to point out it was a lot of hard work. Okay, so that's the part that I want to touch on. So the one with the mom who called me, the one that was struggling with her daughter, she was really struggling with her relationship with her daughter, not understanding why my daughter trusts me so much. Once we had the conversation and she was explaining to me, they argue constantly. And one of the things her daughter, there were a few issues that came up, and I'm going to touch on some of those because I want to go over, my guess is if other people are struggling with them, you are too. Same thing with the mom who had the daughter who was lying, okay? So a couple of things here. There's a common thread. One, both moms felt that they had no control over the situation. And that's a thing we hear a lot. Well, there's nothing I can do. Now they're too old. Well, there's a little bit of truth to that, in that if you wait until your kids are too old, then you have less and less control as they get older. But until they're kind of out of your house, you do have some control. So take back your control. But here's the question I have for you. Are you giving up your control or your power? Are you giving up your power and trying too hard to control them? I know that sounds really weird because parents are like, but I need to control them. You don't really have any control over your teens. I hate to say that. By the time they're teenagers, they're going to do what they're going to do. Most of them are making adult choices. They're just lying to you. And this is something I know to be fact because my daughter and her friends are very honest. I'm privy to the Snapchat and all of that stuff. Most of you don't want to know what's happening, or maybe you do and you just don't know. It's not pretty. By the time they're 13, they're going to be making decisions, and they're going to be making adult decisions with adult consequences if you're not careful. And you can't control it, okay? Unless you're walking into school with them holding their hand, sitting at their desk, you can't control it. What you can do is let them pay their own consequences, though. And so that's where I think people get a little confused. And so I see so many parents trying to control their kids as opposed to taking back their own power. They give up their own power, like these moms are saying, there's nothing I can do about my kid lying, and they're all sad and crying and upset, but they're not exerting their own power, and they're trying too hard to control their kids. And so when I learned that one little thing, it was life-changing for me. Okay, so what I mean by this, it's much easier when kids are little. Obviously, it's much easier when they're little, but it's not impossible when they're teens. So how do you do it when someone's a teen? I'm gonna give you a couple examples. So one of the moms said to me, this was actually someone else said to me, there's nothing I can do. She's on her phone all night. She's on her phone all night. She's on YouTube. She's watching all these dumb things. She won't go to bed until 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, she won't get up until 11 o'clock in the morning, and there's nothing I can do. Now, all of you have your own ideas of how you would handle that, and that's all great. But when she said, I have no control, first thing that comes to my head, she said to me, what would you do? And I said, well, see, for me, it's pretty easy, but I've been doing this for a while now. I've been practicing. So for me, I wouldn't pay for her phone. So my daughter already works, right? So I've established that since she was 5. So I would turn her phone off. In fact, I would take her phone and she would have to buy a phone. So she'd be working for her own phone if she wanted it turned on. So she wouldn't be able to lay around all day. That would solve several problems right there. Now she's in control. I just put her in control of her phone, and I don't have to be the one who's the bad guy over trying to struggle over taking the phone away. It's like, I love you, sweetie. And here's the big thing, you have to use empathy. You can't do it and be mean. You need to be firm and kind and use empathy. I love you. As a mom, I can't do this because I can't watch you hurt yourself. This is my job. My job is to raise you in a responsible way, blah, blah, right? So, if you want to do that, you can. I'm not going to tell you you can't do it because I know that you can do it. But you're going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to pay for it if you want to damage yourself like that. So, you're going to have to get a job or do a whole lot of chores and buy your own phone and pay for your own service. Then you can stay up as late as you want, and figure it out. But do you see where I'm going with this? She's not going to be able to do that. Same thing with the ticket for the concert. So that's how I would handle that situation. The lying, I would be wondering why my daughter was lying, and I would try to find common ground. And I've done this forever. That takes time to establish. I've always told my daughter, look, if you lie to me, then I never can trust you, and there's going to come a day where you're going to want and need me to trust you. Everyone else can call you a liar, and as long as you don't lie to me, I will always be in your corner. But if you do, I'll never be able to trust you. Okay, so no matter how hard the conversation is, it's always better if you tell me the truth. And then what I do is find common ground. So if it's music, I'll find a way to, they think that their music is offensive to us. Maybe it is, but they think their music is offensive to us. They think the words are, it's so much worse than it ever was when we were young. And I'm like, have you heard the music when we were young? So I literally will pick up my daughter's phone and I'm like, sweetie, nothing has changed except for this thing here, the cell phone and the internet. It's always been about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And if you think I don't know that, then you've got another thing coming. I have to let her know that I know what the world is about. Then I have some common ground, I have some rapport, and I have a way to connect with her. So I'm like, look, my job isn't to live, sprinkle magic fairy dust. My job is to know the truth and help you make good decisions within a world that is, the way it is. And so I have more faith in you that, I have faith that if you hear a song on the radio, you're not going to go out and become a horrible person. And so that now allows, do you see what I mean? I opened a door. I built a bridge instead of a wall. Same thing goes with, boys or anything else. I find a story from when I was her age. And if you're lying to your kids about what it was like when you were their age, then why do you think your kids are lying to you? It's pretty obvious. So these are all things that I learned from, between Jim Fay and my husband and some of the parenting experts I know that were so powerful for me. If you are trying to play the perfection game about how you were when you were their age and you never did any of those things, or maybe you didn't, but you don't remember that it was that way, and you're trying to paint this perfect picture, then they have no reason to think that you will relate to them. No reason to think that they can talk to you, because they know that you're not telling them the truth. So you've got to find that common ground and build bridges instead of walls. And that is, you got to create that safety to where they want to talk to you. And in my experience, at least with my daughter and her friends, me initiating it is always the best bet. If you're waiting for your kids to do it, good luck with that. So, because they don't know that they can. They don't know how you're going to react. So I always initiate those conversations. I act a little edgy on the edge, like for where they're at, always age appropriate, but where they're at in their journey. And then they're like, whoa, your mom actually knows what's going on. And now I have influence. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like that hook, and then now I've got some influence. And oh, by the way, these are the consequences for certain behaviors. But once I have that rapport and the influence, and I always tell my daughter, so look, sweetie, I know you can go do whatever you're going to do. You can smoke pot behind the gym at lunch. You can go make out with somebody. You think I don't know all of these things. I do. But along with those things come adult consequences. I know what your friends are doing, and you have a choice. And unfortunately, if you make adult consequences, as much as it will break my heart, I will not even have the ability to rescue you if I want to. I wouldn't anyways, but I wouldn't have the ability to rescue you if I wanted to. So that honesty is what keeps my daughter making good decisions. And I hope that makes sense with that. But working is part of what gives her self-efficacy. She likes it. It gives her strength. It gives her freedom. Gives her choices. And that gives her the ability to, actually even be a leader and stand up to her friends sometimes, because she's got that strength within herself. So I don't know what you guys are struggling with. I'm happy for you to send questions. Like I said, I'm not a parenting expert, but I do have access to some pretty cool people that I'm happy to, reach out to for you. And, one of the things I'd encourage you to do is ask your kids what they're struggling with. Let them know that you're there to be, their support, that you're there to help them through life. You're not there to be their enemy. It's just a sad thing that we've gotten to this place in life where they think of it as us against them. And some parents actually think of it that way. Instead of like, wow, I'm that person that's supposed to really help you get to this amazing life on the other side of college, right? So really we need to get back to that place of they need to know that we're that person. But one thing I don't do, I never rescue my daughter when she does make mistakes. I let her make mistakes while mistakes are cheap, while consequences are cheap. I let her make those mistakes while the consequences are cheap. Now she makes very few. When she was little, she made a lot. She made some doozies. And I let her pay those consequences while they were cheap, before she's 18, before it's STDs and jail and teen pregnancy and on and on and on, and dropping out of college, or drunk driving and killing somebody. Lord knows what it is. But, that's why it's really important that you do it while you do have some influence. Back to the one thing, when parents say they don't have any control because their kids are older or because they're too big, that's one of the big things I hear. Let me just give you an example of what you do have, okay, where you have control. So one of the examples was someone said, my daughter threw such a temper tantrum, she went into my closet, threw my shoes and my clothes out of my closet. Okay, my whole face, when I told my daughter that story, she just went, I don't even have to say anything. It's just, I've never laid a hand on my daughter, and there are times my daughters went, I wish you would just, spank me or do whatever, but she goes, it's just so much worse. Because my daughter looked at me, she goes, I would have no shoes. I'm like, you'd have no shoes and you'd have no door. It's that easy. So, parents have a lot of control they don't think of. If you're doing the driving, if you are paying for clothing, if you are paying for groceries, if you are doing laundry, if you are doing cooking, come on. That's your power. Let them make their mistakes and pay their own consequences. but take back your power. When I hear people say, I've got no power, and I'm like, you load the house up with food, right? And if you're loading it up with a bunch of ice cream and whatever, load it up with nothing but vegetables. Like, if you're buying their clothes, like PE clothes work just fine, as far as I know. Those types of things, they can do their own laundry. My daughter's been doing her laundry since she was 7. So those are the things I'm talking about. Take back your power. Don't let them run you ragged. So I hope this makes sense. I don't know if this is some of the stuff you've been struggling with, but we just maybe because it's summer and kids are around more, but we have been getting a lot of people writing in about issues with their teens, and it's also obviously when our clinics fill up. So our clinics fill up because it's summer and people bring their kids in, and so maybe that's why I'm hearing so much, but happy for you to send in your questions if you have anything you want to talk about. And like I said, check out that podcast, Brain Warriors Way podcast with Jim Fay. All right, take care. Bye-bye.